Sometimes people just don't like you, and it's not your fault. At least not entirely. Most people think it's about looks, charm, or conversation. But the truth is deeper, almost invisible, and you probably do the thing that triggers it every single day, without even realizing. One, the role of subtle body language. The first reason people might dislike you instantly is subtle body language. Humans are wired to read nonverbal cues long before words are processed. A slight frown, a tight jaw, crossed arms, or lack of eye contact communicates defensiveness, disinterest, or discomfort. Even micro expressions, those fleeting moments of tension on your face, are subconsciously interpreted as negative signals. People can sense tension before they even consciously notice it. Your posture, gestures, and facial expressions carry more weight than your tone or choice of words. Even a relaxed or casual interaction can be overshadowed if subtle cues suggest unease, arrogance, or judgment. The fascinating part is that these signals often occur unconsciously. You might think you are smiling and approachable, but micro tensions betray your inner state. The key to managing this is awareness and small adjustments. Open posture, relaxed facial expressions, and intentional eye contact subtly communicate approachability. These changes do not guarantee universal likability, but they reduce unconscious barriers that trigger initial dislike. 2. The power of subconscious judgments. Humans make rapid judgments in milliseconds, often without realizing it. This is the brain's shortcut for assessing threat, compatibility, and trustworthiness. Instantly, the mind evaluates your appearance, tone, behavior, and even scent. Sometimes people react to these subconscious impressions before any words are spoken. This explains why someone might dislike you without a clear reason. It is not personal, and it does not necessarily reflect your character. It is a product of how your signals interact with the other person's brain, past experiences, and psychological filters. Understanding this reduces anxiety. When you realize that instant dislike is often unconscious, you stop overanalyzing every interaction. You can instead focus on improving subtle cues and creating an environment where initial impressions are more likely to be positive. 3. The role of similarity and familiarity. Another key factor is similarity. People instinctively gravitate toward those who resemble themselves in behavior, values, or communication style. This is known as the familiarity principle in psychology. When someone is very different from their expectations or norms, the brain can unconsciously perceive them as a threat or incompatible. This is why some people dislike you instantly, even if you have no obvious flaws. It has nothing to do with charm or skill. It is about resonance. Your mannerisms, energy, or communication style might clash with their subconscious template for safe and likable people. Awareness of this allows you to adapt slightly without changing who you are. Mirroring subtle behaviors, matching energy levels, and adjusting tone can create subconscious familiarity. This reduces immediate resistance and allows people to connect with you more easily. 4. Overly subtle negative cues. Even minor, almost invisible actions can trigger dislike. Rolling eyes, subtle sighs, smirks, or even micro-gestures of impatience can accumulate into a negative impression. Most people do not consciously notice these cues, but the brain registers them instantly. Humans are extremely sensitive to microsignals because they evolved to detect danger, deception, or social hierarchy. Even a slight expression of judgment, superiority, or disinterest can signal to the other person that you are not safe, trustworthy, or compatible. Preventing these negative cues requires self-awareness. Observe your own subtle behaviors in reflection or recording. Small adjustments to expressions, gestures, and tone can dramatically alter how people perceive you without changing your personality. 5. The effect of past experiences. Another invisible factor is the other person's history. Their brain unconsciously applies filters based on past experiences, traumas, or social conditioning. They may associate subtle behaviors with negative experiences in their past, triggering an instant dislike. This explains why you can be perfectly polite, calm, and respectful, and still evoke an inexplicable negative reaction. It is rarely about you directly. It is about how their subconscious interprets your signals based on prior experiences. Awareness of this factor is empowering. It reminds you not to take instant dislike personally. You cannot control someone else's history, but you can minimize triggers by cultivating awareness of your own body language and micro behaviors. 6. Subtle threats to status or ego. Sometimes, instant dislike arises from perceived threats to the other person's social standing or ego. If your presence or behavior unconsciously signals higher competence, confidence, or dominance, it can trigger envy or subtle insecurity. This does not require arrogance. Even calm competence can be interpreted as a threat. Humans evolved to detect and protect their status in social hierarchies. When they perceive a potential challenger, dislike can form automatically and unconsciously. This often occurs before any conversation occurs or before you reveal your true intentions. The solution is not to diminish yourself, but to be aware of how competence and confidence are perceived. Expressing empathy, acknowledging others, and framing interactions to reduce subconscious competition can minimize instant negative reactions. 7. Misaligned energy and emotional states energy is invisible but powerful. People unconsciously read emotional states, energy levels, and general affect. If your energy is misaligned with the environment or the person you interact with, it can trigger instant discomfort or dislike. For example, entering a calm, quiet setting with high-intensity energy may create subtle tension. Entering a lively, energetic environment while appearing flat or withdrawn can trigger subconscious assessment of incompatibility. Energy alignment affects perception far more than words or conversation content. Being mindful of your emotional state and adjusting to context does not mean faking personality. It is about attuning to the environment and subtly modulating expressions, tone, and demeanor to reduce unconscious resistance. 8. The role of expectation and social scripts. Humans rely on social scripts to interpret behavior. When someone deviates from expected scripts, the brain experiences subtle confusion or discomfort. Even small deviations, such as unexpected humor, timing, or social pacing, can trigger subtle dislike. This is why some people react negatively to behaviors that are perfectly acceptable or kind. Their brain interprets unfamiliar patterns as unpredictability or risk. Over time, repeated exposure to your behavior can reverse the initial judgment, but the first impression is often difficult to overcome. Awareness allows you to navigate social scripts more effectively. Small adjustments in pacing, tone, and social rhythm can reduce initial friction, allowing your authentic behavior to be accepted rather than misinterpreted. 9. Self-fulfilling feedback loops. Sometimes, subtle dislike triggers behavior that reinforces it. If you sense someone's initial aversion, even unconsciously, you may tighten up, withdraw, or overcompensate. These micro-reactions amplify the initial dislike, creating a feedback loop. The brain is constantly scanning social cues. Any hint of discomfort or tension is magnified, often without conscious awareness. Recognizing this loop allows you to pause, stay grounded, and maintain calm behavior. Your steadiness can prevent subconscious signals from reinforcing negative perceptions. 10. Awareness as the ultimate tool. The most critical factor in managing instant dislike is awareness. Understanding the invisible triggers allows you to adjust your behavior without being inauthentic. Awareness reduces fear, overthinking, and the unconscious amplification of negative social signals. Small, deliberate adjustments in body language, micro-expressions, energy, pacing, and alignment with values can dramatically reduce subconscious aversion. This does not guarantee that everyone will like you, but it ensures that fewer people experience immediate unconscious resistance. Instant dislike is natural and inevitable at times. It is rarely a reflection of your true character. By understanding the subtle, invisible triggers, you gain control over how often it occurs and how it affects your interactions. Awareness transforms social perception from a mysterious force into something you can influence intentionally.